Hi, my name is Hilary and I've come to tell you a story about God's amazing goodness and healing power in my life. This particular story began when I was about 3 years old and my 18-year-old cousin came to live with us. My parents used to go out twice a week and I remember begging my parents not to go out. I was very, very clingy. I was terrified of any thudding footprints. I would wake up in the night screaming my head off with the most terrible, terrible nightmares. But worst of all, I would wake up every morning with the thought, you've got to kill yourself. You've got to kill yourself. Every morning for about 30 years, this suicidal thought would come into my head. And I learned lots of behaviours to not think about them, so I became a bit of a workaholic. And I used to have to read romance books to keep my head in the right place. I became a Christian when I was 18, carried on being a workaholic and a bit bulimic, and I got married and I had children. And then in my early 30s, things changed. So we were short-term missionaries in Africa and I started getting the most terrible, terrible dreams in Africa. And I used to get dreams of someone drowning me and dreams of someone hurting me. And I didn't really know what to do, so I just tried to work harder. And then when we got back to the UK, several things happened. First of all, my husband was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Secondly, my dad had died. And thirdly, I just had the most terrible culture shock coming back to the UK. I remember getting really, really depressed. I was actively suicidal. And it was the time of the Toronto blessing, but I used to go out in the spirit and have these awful, unspeakable images of something that had happened to me. I knew it had happened to me and I knew it had happened to me as a child. And one day I remember just picking up my Bible and reading Isaiah 61 and just shouting at God and saying, God, your word is not true. Your word is not true, because you don't give me beauty for ashes. You're not doing this. But immediately I said that, I just felt the Holy Spirit just whisper into my heart, as it were, and just say, oh, our word is true. It just doesn't feel true for you at the moment. And I remember going, well, make it true for me then, make it true for me. And from that moment, I don't know how long the process took. It maybe took months or maybe a year, I don't know. I would just lie down on the floor after I put the kids to bed, and I would just start by speaking in tongues and crying out to God and saying, okay, God, change something. And the Holy Spirit would just give me, just show me a flashback of another incident. And I'm sure by now you realise that when my cousin lived with me, he both sexually and physically abused me. And so what I was getting were memories of that time. Every incident, he wanted me to forgive. Sometimes I would struggle with forgiving. It might have taken me a few weeks. And I would go, I cannot let go of that, Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit would just say, well, can you just trust us? Just trust us. We are trustworthy. Every time I let go, I would be filled with the most incredible joy and light and peace. And it was just incredible. And then the next night I'd lie down on the floor again and face down and go, okay, Holy Spirit, is there any more? And the Holy Spirit would show me another incident. I'd forgive it. I'd then have to let go of the behaviours that I put in round to protect myself. And then one morning I remember waking up and I thought, oh, I've got no suicidal thoughts. I woke up with a song of joy in my heart and an incredible gratitude to God. And I just remember thinking, oh, this is amazing. And that was 30 years ago. And for 30 years, I've not been on any antidepressants. For 30 years, I've woken up every morning with a song of joy in my heart. God does what he says he does. He's made Isaiah 61 come true to me. He swaps ashes for beauty. He swaps mourning for joy. He breaks the chains that imprison us. and he makes us oaks of righteousness. I want to be an oak of righteousness so that I can be a testimony. So that's my story.